A quick snapshot. We have a portfolio of 3 technologies, all addressing obesity, diabetes, and gastroenterology. We've been looking at sort of best-in-class technologies, development stage, looking at specific niches in these areas. So the first is Trimio, and these are oral capsules for weight loss. Trim Tech, which is a gastric stimulation device, also for weight loss, and the eMosquito, and I'll go into these in a little more detail, but then the eMosquito is a minimally invasive, and this is an automated glucose monitoring technology. It's for in-plane lancing. It basically is a watch-like technology. Quick snapshot, this is as of September, again, and our Canadian Securities Exchange symbol MQ. So again, what we're doing, we're addressing substantial and growing markets. We have a good leadership, good advisory team, people who, I've managed public companies previously, spent my whole career in drug development, so this is actually a bit of a new shift for me, going in more of a device space. But people who know how to develop products, understand how to engineer their products and commercialize them. We're looking very much at best-in-class technologies that are differentiated from other technologies in the space and patent protected. These are issued patents that protect the technologies. Looking for multiple opportunities for value creation. I think most people know obesity is a major issue. It's an astounding market in terms of how much is spent globally every year on weight loss, and it's expected to grow from about $150 billion to over $200 billion over the next 5 years. We spend $190 billion a year in this country on medical costs due to the fact of obesity and complications from obesity. And 2.8 million people are dying because of obesity or being overweight and complications. And so again, the niche we're trying to fill are therapies that are, let's say, less invasive than surgical techniques and some more of the invasive devices out there, and that are not drugs either. So we're trying to fill this space where it's hopefully have less side effects than drugs, less invasive than other technologies currently available. Here, a bit about the leadership, myself, the board of directors, Dr. Minchev, who is really the scientific founder, the patent holder of the technologies, Dr. Andrews, who is a gastroenterologist and treats obesity patients, so he understands this from a patient perspective, and a number of really nice advisors who've been involved in the early clinical trials and involved in drug development and device development previously. Quick snapshot about where we're looking at. With Trimio is our most advanced product. We're looking at definitive proof of concept trials next year, likely to support what would be a CE mark in Europe, and likely, depending on how that data looks, would either, potentially allow us to take action with the FDA or support a pivotal trial for U.S. A little more about Trimio. You see a picture of it. These are capsules for oral administration. They are wrapped, super absorbable, biodegradable polymers. What happens when you swallow them, they expand in the stomach, and they basically take up space, they reduce volume in your stomach, and they delay gastric emptying. There's actually sort of a dual mechanism where there is a sac, a biodegradable sac that holds the polymers together. As that sac then expands, then you have these polymers that are sort of spreading through the gut and into the intestines. The market we're looking at with this are where the gastric balloons, which have been approved in Europe for a few years, recently approved in the U.S. We can see this type of product as a potential replacement for that and less invasive. So these balloons are typically implanted through an endoscope or endoscopic procedure. So these last for about 7 to 10 days, and then they are naturally biodegradable, and they are digested and they will pass your system. 5 U.S. issued patents to protect this technology, 4 in the EU. And then there's some, potentially very interesting applications with this type of device as well, looking at either, potential drug delivery systems or, some other combination type therapies. This has been in 3 clinical trials to date. The first 2 trials, very much pilot trials, testing the safety and feasibility. The most important trial, number 103, there were 16 overweight, obese volunteers. they were otherwise healthy, and there was a 2-month trial. There was a placebo control, and so what happened was the patients took the active product for 1 month and then crossed over to the placebo, and then the placebo patients who started after 1 month, they crossed over and received the active. So what we saw in that 2-month trial, body weight was approximately a 6% reduction by using the capsules as compared to the placebo device or the sham device. BMI about 6.1% reduction, and some other measures as well. These are the types of measures that surpass any other non-invasive device currently on the market, and frankly most drugs. So if we can continue this type of weight loss, we'll be looking at, from our perspective, about a 5% weight loss at 12 weeks makes for a highly commercially viable, reimbursable product. Some details here on our development plans. I mean, the key thing here is optimizing production and, basically taking this from, let's say, kind of earlier stage manufacturing, being able to scale this up. And then the non-clinical testing of the optimized product, that's just a small trial to test any of the changes in the product, and then look at our definitive clinical proof of concept trial to be initiating in 2016. Moving on, this is, like I said, our next priority is the TrimTech. This is a gastric stimulator device. It's a device. It's about half the size of a business card. It's a little bit thicker. You can sort of see that there in the top right corner. There are 2 electrodes that come out of this that are implanted into the stomach, into your distal stomach or the bottom of your stomach. And what this does is, it's a responsive device. So as a patient starts to eat, it actually signals to turn on the stimulation device. Those electrodes provide stimulation to your stomach, and it makes you feel full sooner and feel full longer so that you're eating less. And it turns itself on and off as you start to eat, and when you finish eating, it turns off. And if you're not familiar with this space, it may sound a little bit different or strange even. There's actually quite a body of research that has gone through neurostimulation and muscle stimulation for a number of disease indications with a lot of promise. What I think we're very excited about with our technology is not going into the nerve, it is going into the muscle, and that really distinguishes us from some of the other technologies. Let's say Medtronic has one out on the market, and Teramedics has one on the market in this space. So this thing it's implanted just under the skin, and the 2 leads are implanted laparoscopically. So this is a minimally invasive procedure. It is rechargeable with a belt, so you basically can just put your belt on at night and recharge a battery in the pacemaking stimulator device. There are 6 issued patents for this technology in the U.S. We have Rashena, which is a very reputable manufacturing partner. They are undertaking the ISO manufacturing compliance or the qualification, which is sort of the key step in development towards full GMP compliance that would allow marketing in the U.S. So once they get that through that, and they're doing that at their own cost, then we're planning our clinical trials for this device. What we've seen so far, and this is a non-clinical trial, this was done in beagles and dogs, which are actually very good models for human, especially in gastric or gastroenterological indications. I don't know if you can really see here, but it was a beagle design. So what you see, there were the 4 beagles who were basically GES means the gastric electrostimulation. So while they were on the gastric electrostimulation, we saw weight reduction. When the device was removed or turned off, the beagles actually either flattened out or started to gain weight again. And in a similar crossover design, same thing happened here. The lighter gray is when they have the sham, and there's no electric stimulation. There's no particular change in their weight. Once they switch over and they're on the active stimulation patterns, you see rather dramatic weight loss. We saw food intake decrease as well as the body weight of these dogs, and both of those measures were statistically significant. So again, rather encouraging. We'd like, of course, now we need to see this translate to humans. So what we're doing, I mentioned the ISO GMP manufacturing. That's ongoing, looking to initiate our pilot trial in next year. and really clarify the regulatory path next year as well as we get through those trials. And then our third technology, again, very interesting, a bit earlier on in development, we're looking at prototypes. This is a wearable, autonomous, automatic glucose monitor, so for diabetic monitoring. It's a watch type of a device that will make automated pricks just under the skin, take one drop of blood, and be able to monitor glucose levels. There was a human pilot study of one of the prototypes that has been published. Provisional patents filed. We look to convert that rather soon, and it's being funded by external grants currently. Again, this is it's an interesting setup for us where we have external funding that allows us to get through the prototype development, and then over the course of next year we can look at how these prototypes work out and what we want to may take forward into development. So what my priorities are, so I've joined the company about 5 weeks ago, so I'm relatively new. As I mentioned, the company was formed earlier this year. I was brought on to help build the company in multiple ways. My key focus, especially on the U.S. side of the management with device industry professionals, and our focus here on the most important market for these types of devices, looking at our clinical advisory board, helping to bring in a couple people that really understand this market very well, and certainly, of course, meeting our key product development milestones through next year. I think as we did announce, we were looking to improve the stock liquidity and visibility in the U.S. There's actually a decent amount of liquidity in Canada as well as in Germany for the stock, but the stock does not trade electronically currently in the U.S., so that we'll have resolved, and it is listed on the OTCQB, not DTC eligible as of today, but that's something we're going to be improving as well. And I'm especially interested in looking outside of our core markets are very much the U.S., EU, Canada, and looking outside those regions for marketing and distribution type deals that would allow us to really get a wider reach and do it in an appropriate and capital efficient way. So that's us. Again, I'm really happy you came to see. I know that there's a lot of details in this. I'm happy to talk more. I have a few fact sheets or something if you'd like to take some time and research on your own.